confetti.
Every time, I think every confetti photo I've done, I've always got one of the groom or the bride choking on a piece of confetti. They're like,
and for video, I'm the one putting that in slow mo, like I'm just choking on the confetti because I think it's funny. So welcome back to the podcast. How's your wedding season going so far, Tom?
I feel like it's been odd. Like the last 2 years have been intense. So I feel like I should have shot more weddings by the fact that it is now June. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like I've like nearly half of the year's gone, but I definitely haven't done nearly half of my weddings.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same.
But the ones that I've had, I've really enjoyed and have been really good. And I think because I've got that mind that this year's not so much of a marathon as the other years have been, that I've been able to give more and felt like I've wanted to give more. I've got the capacity to give more at the weddings I am shooting because I'm not worried about the other 6 I've got that week, you know?
Yeah, I think that's the aim, isn't it? Like you want to, like the reason you increase your prices is so you can spend more time with your couples and put more energy into them and stuff. And I feel the same as you. Like it's been a walking start to the year, I would say. But I think this episode goes out on the 1st of June, which the bulk of my weddings are squished into the end of May. So by the time this episode goes out, I don't.
You might imagine,
I'm going to preemptively say I'm knackered. I'm done with the season. That's it. No, but I've got a holiday coming up in June, so that should break it up a little bit.
Where are you going?
Going to Turkey.
Oh, nice.
An all-inclusive job. It's something that we try and do in the middle of season. So June is pretty much our holiday time. So like we've got like March, April, May weddings done. June we'll go away, and then we'll come back fresh for like July and August sort of.
I think as well, like I found, obviously we spoke in the last episode because I'd just come back from New York in that episode, that having holidays is great because you need to rest and recharge and get inspired, but also it almost gives you a mini deadline. Do you know what I mean? Where like sometimes like the end of the season's kind of always there, like that's kind of like the stop bit where you kind of catch up. But I feel like if you go on holiday just for your own well-being, that you want to get stuff done before you go, so it kind of gives you a mini deadline to go, well, I must get that and all those little bit jobs that linger on your to-do list for longer than they should.
You get them off your plate before you go.
You kind of feel that you want to get them done before you go on holiday. So in some ways going on holiday is great for the holiday benefits, but as well as the work things of kind of using that as I need to get this done before I go. Yeah,
and get you away and take yourself out of things, because often by that point you're fully in the wedding season and every weekend is weddings and weekdays are editing them and stuff, so getting out of that is nice. But yeah, I'm just gonna sit by a pool, drink some cocktails, and
it's the dream.
And forget. We don't go on a lot of those holidays, to be honest, but I think they're handy, and it's like we were saying in the last episode about rest and relaxation, like it brings the best inspiration. I'll find I'm like 3-4 days into an all-inclusive and I'm sat there on my phone like typing out something that I want to do when I get back, like need to do this is actually a cool idea, like or
it reignites that excitement, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and when you get back you kind of want to get back into things, I think. So today we're talking about tech. I
kind of got the fear when we said we're going to do a tech talk, because for someone like yourself who runs a YouTube channel which is pretty much tech based, and for me sometimes that when people come up and ask me at weddings, how many megapixels is your camera, I look blankly at them. I kind of felt like this maybe would go one of two ways, but the way that the slant that we've put on it is kind of non-camera related stuff that we've bought or are using in our businesses, which have made our lives easier, I guess That's a very wordy way of putting it. But
No, that's a perfect way of putting it. I think the thing is with this podcast, we wanted to avoid going straight in with what cameras we're using and things like that, because we don't want it really to be about that. But at the end of the day, like these conversations, we use a lot of tech and things like that. So we're always talking about the new things we've got, the new things we use. And I think a lot of it, whilst some of it is new and shiny and just cool, some of it actually genuinely enhances the way you work, your workflows, or the final product for the couple. Yeah,
and I think, I'm just looking over the list now. A lot of the things that we've mentioned don't specifically apply to a certain brand. It's not like you need to buy an R6, otherwise you're rubbish. And again, well, for clarity, both of us use Sony. But anyway, that's kind of beside the point. It's not like we're not telling you to go and buy a certain lens or a certain thing. It's this piece of equipment or this piece of software has made our lives easier, rather than you need to go and buy this exact thing that we have.
Yeah. Buy a Sony 24-70 this year or you're out of business by next year.
Yeah, exactly. It's not about that at all. But hopefully there'll be some cool nuggets in there, or stuff maybe that you're not doing, or things that you just haven't heard of, that if they can save you some time through these next busy few months that are coming up, then you're welcome.
Yeah, and I think that some of the things are the things you don't really think to buy initially.
Yeah.
And some things some people think to buy and some people don't, and that brings me on to your purchase recently.
Yes, I feel like I finally caught up with the rest of the world.
You finally bought a monitor.
I did,
and this is a crazy thing because how long have you been doing this for?
I've been doing this for just over 10 years. So yeah, up until about 6 weeks ago, for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been editing solely off of a 15-inch MacBook Pro.
My neck would be.
So before that, I had an iMac. I had a series of iMacs, 2 or 3 iMacs before that.
Yeah.
I also used to have the 21.5-inch. That was ideal for me. And then I had one.
I didn't realise you had the iMacs.
I had iMacs before. So I had iMacs before, and I blew the backlight on one. So it still works, but I just can't see anything on it. So at that time, I got an external a monitor just to plug in and finish up what I had.
Yeah.
And I knew I had to set about buying a new computer. So I bought a MacBook so that I had the benefits of working out of my office as well as in, but then never kind of bothered after that to buy a monitor to go with it. And I always just lived on my desk or on our dining room table when I used to live, when I didn't have a dedicated office. And since then, just kind of, plodded on, only using the small screen up until probably, the early parts of this year or the end of last year, when I have back problems anyway, and that was definitely getting exacerbated by leaning over like the hunchback, peering into a 15-inch screen, trying to edit weddings day in, day out.
Yeah, but it does change. I mean, as a videographer, I feel like, I wouldn't say it's essential to have a monitor as a videographer, but you're working, it's timeline based. So you want to try and see as much of that timeline as possible. And then you're stacking clips on top of each other. So you kind of want a little bit of vertical space as well.
Yeah.
And so whilst I had a phase where I sort of edited in the living room on my sofa, even though I had a monitor in the other room, I feel like just to get a little bit of like a different change of scenery or something, I still think that I am much more productive on a monitor. And yeah, so I can't even imagine not having one. But the thing is, I guess with photo, like you are seeing, all you need to see is the photo in the size that the couple are going to see it, right? Pretty much. Like,
yes, but I think as well, sometimes you only know that something is terrible after you know a different way.
Yeah.
And I think I got so caught up with those busy years of, I've just got a screen, it works, I like the colours on it, it kind of, it's there, I open it and it works wherever.
Yeah.
So I just carried on. And it's not now that I now have a 27-inch monitor on my desk that I actually sit back and look at it because the screen's so massive that I have to.
Yeah.
And I don't realise until I went to a coffee shop to do some admin the other day and opened my tiny screen and felt like I was staring at a thimble because it was so small that I realised, how did I cope?
Yeah.
A few weeks on, how did I ever cope editing on this tiny screen now that I have a huge one? And like you said, with Windows and stuff, I could only have Lightroom, which I had to have at full screen on my laptop to work on it. But every time I wanted to change track on Spotify or an email came in or something else, I've got to bury all my apps and open them again. Where now I can have like 2 or 3 things open on my screen at once.
Yeah.
And I can just kind of ping from things. So it's made me more productive. My back hurts less. And all of those joys just by buying my monitor.
It's a gateway drug. You'll have a 50-inch TV up on your wall soon. You'll be like, if you're there, like with 100 windows up in different corners.
maybe it's the start. But I think also, like we were saying before we started talking about my monitor, is I think a lot of the things that we're going to discuss today aren't particularly exciting. Like the joy of getting a new camera or a new lens or going and buying something you just really want, like a new car or like a new album, like whatever. You're like, you feel like, I've spent really good money on this and I don't mind splashing out. But like when you go and spend nearly £1,000 on a screen, or a hard drive,
and when you probably already got some sort of screen
you kind of feel like I have something already. So the money feels like it's not as joyous to spend that money.
Yeah.
But I think once you spend it and you're reaping the benefits of it, you maybe realise why these things cost what they do, and you can see the benefit in it. But at that time when I was looking, going, well, I've got a laptop, it has a screen. Do I really want to spend that much money just to have a bigger one? But now I
guess you're glad you did.
Now I have. I'm definitely glad I did.
And I think it can be for various reasons. Some of the things we've got on the list actually benefit the couples. Some of them just benefit us, and like at the end of the day, we want to enjoy our job. So like you getting the monitor has improved like your ergonomics and probably like job satisfaction, because now you've got, like you say, more room for windows and perhaps. I mean, you mentioned earlier about maybe some of the negatives that you're finding yourself like zooming into photos and seeing more imperfections.
That's it, because before, obviously, on my screen, because it was a laptop screen, I would roughly edit a picture and say like 34%, and I had to zoom into 100 to make sure it's in focus or check the crop. Where now, because my screen is so ginormous, that it more or less sits at about 100% on my screen at full size. So if I zoom into it, I'm like, it's not in focus anymore. But it is, because I'm looking at 300% now because my screen's so much more massive. And I think, but those technical benefits are there. But even say like health benefits of the fact that I can walk away from my desk now without stooping over because I've learnt that so long. My back doesn't hurt as much. I can afford to take less breaks now because I don't feel that I have to get up and wander around every 10 minutes because of the way that I'm sat and stuff like that. Just the benefits of not only having the monitor as well, but obviously by having my MacBook docked, I have to use a keyboard and mouse now. Where before I had my laptop on a riser, so I had like T-Rex arms. And you can see on the video because the keyboard hovers in the air as well as the screen, so we get the right eye line. So now that I find that like my elbows don't rub on the edge of my desk, so that whole kind of posture of having like a big keyboard and actually using the proper mouse again, rather than just having like the claw hand out, using the trackpad in midair. All of those things kind of just make being at my desk a much more enjoyable experience, which makes me want to spend more time at my desk doing work because it's not so much of a chore or a task on my body.
Yeah, and that's something that you wouldn't even get in a workplace because they probably wouldn't even let you work.
Health and safety would not let it.
No, they wouldn't allow that. Like your laptop risen and you sort of trying to raise your arms to type.
See, I feel like a stand-up desk maybe on my horizon before the 50-inch ginormous TV.
Oh, that's
like the idea of like one that goes up and down that I could stand at for a little bit and sit at for a bit.
So that we're quite snobby in that. We've got 3 standing desks in our office. The 2 of them are automated and Kate's got a little wind-up one.
You're a bougie man.
Yeah.
But
the IKEA standing desk is actually really good. I wasn't going to talk about that, but yeah, it does. It's one of those things that once you don't use it as much as you think you would. But when you're like, sometimes you sat down for so long, and like I'll go to lunch and I'll come back and I'll be like, oh, I don't want to sit on that lunch, so I'll just raise the desk, and suddenly I'm like, oh, I'm really glad I have it now. So you don't use it a lot, but when you do, it's like actually quite handy. I think
like we said a minute ago, if you take those things away, you probably realise how much you took them for granted. But it's not, if you're at a business point where you're going, oh, I've got some money to spend, maybe having a stand-up desk over, your dining room table is not going to make a massive impact on your actual physical, the output of that you make.
Oh yeah, exactly. Some people can live without.
Yeah.
And most people would, but I think it's one of those things. Once you've got it, you're like, the sort of uses and how it makes you feel, sort of when you do stand up.
Yeah, and hence obviously the title of this episode saying things to make your life easier. Yeah. It's not the things that you can't live without, because you probably definitely live without most of the things on our list. It's just about streamlining that workflow, making the things that you do easier, and make it a more kind of slick experience for yourself and your clients.
And talking about monitors, I don't want to talk too much about them, but like I've just invested in a new monitor as well, which is it's a very unique aspect ratio. So I guess for those that are not too sort of tech savvy on these things, 16:9 is the normal sort of TV ratio and the normal monitor ratio. This is slightly taller than 16:9. So the idea is you can sort of turn it around 90 degrees on its sort of stand and have almost a vertical monitor. But if you did that with a 16:9 monitor, it'd be very vertical. It'd be quite narrow.
Yeah.
But with this one, you can turn it around. It's vertical, but it's not as narrow, so it's still quite wide. And the benefit of that for video is you can have, and you can do this on a normal screen, but it's not going to look as good. You can have 2 timelines on top of each other. So what I have is, say I'm editing someone's highlights film. I'll have the bottom timeline will be the highlights timeline, and then the top one will be all the cold footage. So all I've got to do is drag them down, just like one by one. So I'm like scrolling through the top one, find what I want, drag it down. Whereas it used to be, I would go into one timeline, find what I want, copy, go to the next one, paste. And like I know it's probably saving seconds each clip, but those seconds really add up.
Yeah.
And it makes for a much more seamless experience. So I'm editing for longer because I'm finding I'm not getting distracted by trying to copy one thing over to another.
Especially a task which is quite repeatable.
Yeah.
And you'll keep switching backwards and forwards to copy that and drag that to kind of keep it all in the same place.
Yeah.
And work on it much more intuitively. You feel that you're working smarter with it rather than like you're sat doing this going, this is the most boring thing ever. There must be an easier way of doing it. Yeah.
Every button you have to press and everything you have to do is a way of blocking your creativity. The smoother you can make it for yourself, the more creative you're going to be at the end of the day. And because I can easily drag all those clips on, sometimes it's easy to be like, just do it and then be like, oh, I've just dragged a load of clips on and not really thought about what I'm doing. Like it does speed up things a lot. So basically, I have my 2 timelines stacked at the bottom, and then I have the source monitor at the top. and it's just really nice. And then I have like a second monitor next to it, which mostly goes to waste, to be honest. At this point, it is massively overkill my setup, and I do have to sort it out. But yeah, I recommend it's called an LG Dual Up. I don't want to shout out the brand. It's the only brand that does it. So
that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's sort of changed the way I look at editing a little bit.
So can you flip that screen back to the normal like ratio, and so you could use it as just a standard?
Exactly. Yeah. But obviously it's not going to be 16:9. So if you did flip it back and then wanted to watch like Netflix or something, you're going to have some black bars somewhere. But yeah, it really stands out in that way that you can sort of have it either orientation, and you're not compromising pretty much like anything for that as well. And the color accuracy is quite good as well. But that's something that, I
guess when you're culling stuff, it doesn't matter, and that was something which when I went to buy my monitor was something which took a really long time for me to kind of know to invest. Again, without getting too kind of brand specific, I knew that I didn't want to spend the £1,500 or £1,600 on the Apple display, although that would have been the easiest solution to go and buy that. It's bespoke for my computer. It still seemed like an awful lot of money to spend to try something. So I ended up buying a BenQ monitor for about half that, about £850. But to have the puck where you can load different colour spaces onto it, and have a dedicated MBook mode to match the colours for my MacBook, so that I know that if I decide to work in my desk for half a day, but then continue that edit on the go elsewhere, the colours are going to be as near to each other as they can be. That obviously was really, really important to me.
Yeah, definitely. Those BenQ monitors are actually quite known for that, to be honest, having that MacBook mode, and they are quite colour accurate as well. The thing is about the MacBook screen is it's so good that moving to anything else makes your colours just look flatter, and you're like, oh, what have I think
that's probably been the biggest learning curve, is to go from a glossy screen to a matte screen.
Yeah.
And because my work as well is quite kind of, my contrast and my blacks are quite deep. They lend themselves to the glossy screen really nicely.
Yeah.
That even the work that I'd edited previously on my MacBook, you pull it up on that and you go, oh, I'm not sure it does look as nice. And it's kind of almost learning to edit on the matte screen has taken a little, probably took a little while to kind of adjust my eyes to what it would look like on the MacBook definitely. If I opened it up.
Yeah.
But kind of now I've found my feet with it. I'm definitely enjoying the benefits.
Yeah. Last thing to talk about is that I recently bought a Spider. I haven't put it in the notes because it just reminded me of it, talking about colours.
Oh, the calibrator.
Spider colour calibrator, which has been very handy because the monitor that I recently bought has completely different colours to the LG monitor that sits next to it, which is just like it was a gaming monitor. I bought it for gaming, and it's kind of like washed out colours. But this Spider calibrator kind of, I don't know, brought them sort of into a middle ground, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And now I'm noticing my colours are a lot more consistent across the board, I guess, because I do go back to the widescreen monitor for colour grading because I only need one timeline sort of thing. So yeah, it's one again. Like it took me years to do it because it's the most boring purchase ever, and it's quite expensive. But now I've got it, I'm like, oh, actually, when I'm putting my videos on a TV for a wedding fair, I'm noticing the colours are actually better, how they should look. Because
I think that the colour kind of debate can go on forever, and should you shoot in sRGB and Adobe or whatever colours you use, and then obviously then you unleash your work that you've poured ages on the colours over to your client, and they might view it on their gaming monitor which has washed out colours, or their TV in cinema mode that makes everything neon, or on their phone with a cracked screen or however. But I think to know that it's left your hands in the most consistent and best way possible, I think is the mark of a good creative, I think.
Yeah, definitely. But talking about things that make your workflow quicker as well, you're talking about switching over to SSD drives.
Yes.
SSDs are something that for videographers, I feel like we've had to switch to as soon as like we started shooting 4K or, switching to SSDs changes, in my opinion, makes, your video editor much quicker. Some people will say that hard drives are the same speed, but I don't believe that at all. There's a whole debate for another time. But I feel like switching to SSDs was something videographers had to do a lot earlier, but I feel like it does benefit.
I feel for me, and again, maybe it comes from a place of being tight again, not being exciting to spend money on, is that SSDs when they first came out were just very expensive.
Yeah.
So I use, and I imagine a lot of other photographers and videographers that listen to this used to swear by the orange rubber Lassie rugged drives.
Yeah.
Anything that can have a card driven over it or you can throw out of a window and survive, I think is a good kind of measure in my book. And I use those portable drives for all of my backups, before obviously going onto the big RAID system. So to have that and to carry that in my bag at a wedding or to be, wherever it needs to be, I always kind of swore by those drives. But as as years have gone on, I'm uploading data to them more often. Maybe I'm shooting a little bit more than I used to, trying to get that data across at the end of an evening. When you've come home, you've been at a wedding all day, you've maybe got another one the next day, you just need to get those cards emptied and that data safe before you go to bed. Watching that hard drive kind of churn over, downloading one image at a time. When I went over to the first SSD that I used, and it could empty those cards probably in half the time, I'd say. To spend an hour and a quarter when I got home from a wedding, backing up and kind of, syncing times and stuff, to get that down to half an hour is worth the price alone. And even now that the price of these kind of portable SSDs is dropping, it's even more of a no-brainer, I think.
And that extra time is time that you could do previews if you needed to, or if you had the energy to at the end of the day. And that's a big thing as well. If you needed to get the previews out before the next day because you've got something else on and you can't get them in.
And I've found now that I've started to, because before it would be I'd do the backup and then would have no energy left for it in the evening. So I'd probably get up on the Sunday morning, while my wife was still sleeping, and go, I'll try and get those done before we go and enjoy our day. Now, because that backup's so quick, I can work for them. Or I've even found the last couple of weddings, I've been able to cull it that night.
Yeah, that makes a huge
That time
difference.
is quick because it's on the drive. I kind of think, well, I've still got some energy left. The day's fresh in my mind. I could just cull it now.
Yeah, speed and like I said, getting rid of obstacles just makes you so much more motivated to do things. Ever since I stopped using Premiere Pro, I don't want to hate on Premiere Pro, but Premiere Pro crashes and it's slow all the time. It's just a nightmare. But ever since I've stopped using it, I found myself much more motivated to edit on DaVinci Resolve because I feel like it's just not going to crash on me. It's quicker, and because of that, I'm not hitting stabilize and being like, well, it's going to take 10 minutes. I'll go and do this, and then come back half an hour later and completely forgot what I was doing, sort of thing. And those things do make a huge difference. And that leads on to a pretty similar thing we were talking about, like transferring the footage. I invested, it's not even recently to be honest, but I did want to talk about it, that an Angelbird card reader. So basically you plug it into your Mac and it's got two USB readers and they're super quick. It's not a cheap card reader considering, again, it's a boring purchase and it's quite expensive. But these things, I'm talking like 100 gigabytes in like 8 minutes or something from an SD card. Got super fast SD cards as well, but these Angelbird things will outlast as you keep upgrading your SD cards. They'll outlast them. So the idea is that when I get back from a wedding, I can plug that in, two SD cards in there, one SD card on the Mac, and that's my 3 cameras transferred over, and I can leave that sort of going. And like I said, within probably 20 minutes, half an hour, my whole wedding is transferred over.
That's huge, isn't it? Whether it's a videographer like yourself downloading probably a lot more data than we do as photographers, or even obviously most photographers that I know now shoot at least 2 cameras.
Yeah.
So me to have to go, I'm going to empty one card and change it over the other card, to be able to, say, go to my desk, plug my SSD in, make the folder, put both cards in at once, and just drag all of it over. By the time I've made my coffee and come back to my desk, it's done.
Yeah, shower at the end of the day, come back, do your previews.
Both cards on that same drive in 10 to 15 minutes that's massive, Yeah,
exactly. And when you've got double headers and things like that, of which we have quite a lot this year, even though I said I'd try and avoid them, most of our weddings are double headers. I feel like that sort of small margin makes a big difference to your quality of life.
And at the end of the day that you're doing it, if you've come home from a wedding and you've been shooting for 10 or 12 hours, maybe more in the height of summer, it's late at night, you've had a long drive home, or you're in your Premiere Inn, or wherever you are at the end of that day, you just need to get that job done well so that data is safe. It's stored in a manner that you can find it again, that it's not gonna, you're not gonna lose it, but it needs to be done quickly. And to have a really kind of clear avenue to get that done with the best tech to get that done will just make you'll thank past you for buying that card reader when it's 11 o'clock at night and you've been at a wedding all day and you just want to get that stuff safe so you can get to bed.
Imagine how much time you would save, like if you add that up across all your weddings and stuff, you've saved a few hours.
And
like that is a big difference.
And I think that's it, is looking at the bigger picture of it, isn't it? Is 10 minutes over 40 weddings. That's a lot of time. Exactly. Do that many times. And a lot of this kit as well now is not kit that you would need to upgrade time and time again. Like you said, you've had those Angel Fire card readers for a while now, and they're still vastly faster than a lot of the cards that are on the market.
Even available,
so it's an investment. It's not just a purchase that you're making, which is expensive.
And that Spider thing is going to go across multiple different monitors that I'll buy and would sit in my drawer forever, not being used until I buy a new monitor. But when I do, it's there. and I'm always going to thank myself for buying it. But it's one of those things that takes you a while to be like, yeah, I probably need this thing.
Yeah. And I think it's little things, well, and sometimes it's like we said at the start, is kind of you plough on the best way you know how until you get something new. And I also had a little bit of a splurge before the end of the tax year because I needed to spend some money, and I bought a new camera bag as well. About 6 weeks ago, I suppose.
So we both got the same.
Yeah,
camera
you
bag,
have
different
like
sizes.
you have the big brother of the version that I have. You have the daddy bear, and I have the normal size. So yeah, I had a bag before, which I kind of feel I've never ever found the perfect camera bag. It's like a thing that doesn't exist.
Yeah, 100%.
And I always kind of feel that if I ever got to like a level that I would deem that I've made it, you know, like Peter McKinnon has his bag.
Yeah.
Like if I got approached by a bag company to make a bag, like I would lose my mind. Yeah. Like that'd be the best thing in the world. Like not even the fact that people would walk around with a bag on the back with my name on it, because I wouldn't be that vain.
It's the fact that you could
but
pick
just
everything.
all the thing that I've ever hated or wished that there could be in a camera bag, I could put it in my camera bag, and that would I'd be the best.
Special space for your baseball cap, like
that's it. Like the manifest, moustache comb in the side. We'd be there. The things that would happen in this camera bag, you don't even want to know. So I bought a new bag. The bag I had before was great for the kit that I had at the time, and then I maybe added another lens to my system. My flash had got a bit bigger, and so in the end I found that the personal space that you call it in the top of the bag, you know, where kind of your keys and your camera straps go, was slowly getting encroached with other little bits of camera stuff that didn't quite fit in the storage at the bottom. But then, so I decided I was going to buy a new bag. And so I bought the PGY Tech bag. So you've got the bigger version. And for the most part, they're still never the perfect bag, but it's a lot nearer to how it used to be. All of my kit now is secured in proper padded bits and has its own sections. The stuff's just chucked in the top.
That makes a huge difference to have that organisation where you know everything slots in its own little gap.
Yeah, and I think for me, like one of the best things that I loved about that bag is that it has like a battery department. So it has like a little pockets for the batteries, and on the front of the battery pockets, it has a slider which goes from green to red.
Yeah.
So before I used to have like a little like bag, like cloth bag to keep my batteries in, and then if I used to have my fresh batteries in there, then put my dead ones just loose in my camera bag.
Yeah.
So I knew that they're the ones that had to be charged, but they still get muddled, or I'd worry that one would fall out of my bag or whatever.
Yeah.
But to have this kind of strip for like 3 or 4 batteries that you can just leave them all in there and just flick, that one's green, that's fully charged, or that one's red, it's not charged, is great.
That is a cool feat,
It's one of the best things I've ever seen on a camera bag, and probably one of the main reasons that pushed me towards that bag.
Just for videographers, you're not going to be using that battery compartment.
Because you'll use about 20 batteries in a day. Yeah, for me, it's lucky if I change batteries once in both my cameras for a day.
I think there's 3 of those slots, isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah, so I've got like 9 batteries. So I've like cordoned off a bit at the top.
Just buy 3 of the bags, you'll be fine. You guys have got loads of kit anyway. You need it.
So we had the Low Pro 450, which is like the bag that every every photographer and videographer tends to get, the Low Pro bags, the Pro Tactics. And we didn't have it for long, to be fair, but it fit all of our gear in. And then we bought one more lens, and it was like, now we have nowhere to put this one lens. But luckily, I have like a little YouTube channel that I run on the side, and PGY Tech, who make the bag that we got, reached out and said, do you want to try this bag? And I was like, buzzing, that looks like exactly what I'm after. And I had the version 1, which I think you had as well. Did you have that one?
I've got the version 2 of the smaller ones, the 25 litre, yeah.
Oh, okay. But I didn't really like it that much because it was like split in the middle, and it was kind of designed so that, you put that one thing in the middle and it's split into 2 parts or whatever. So I didn't really think I was going to like it, but it actually ended up being perfect. And it is a beast, right?
Yeah.
But we're not minimal filmmakers. We're take the kitchen sink and use it all, sort of thing. We don't take anything we don't use, but we take a lot. And so this bag now fits in nothing more, but everything that we use, it fits in. And I think that's kind of a big thing. I don't know. Again, the organisation, the having everything, so that you open your bag, you know exactly where everything is.
Yeah.
When you're going to pack away in the evening, you know exactly where everything goes, and it's just like a pick up and go thing. And for someone who, there's 2 of us normally on the day, so we need sometimes multiples of the same. We've got 2 35mm and stuff like that. We feel like we need that sort of like versatility between us. We have a little bit more lenses than maybe a photographer who shoots on their own. Then we have like, extra sound equipment and everything like that. So having a bigger bag has been great. And I do, PGY Tech bag was pretty good for that.
I think so, yeah. And again, like we were saying earlier, none of these things are particularly exciting purchases, but I feel that, again, it wasn't a cheap bag, but it was well priced for what I get out of it. There are definitely very more expensive bags on the market, or cheaper bags on the market, but I trust in that will last me a good few seasons now and be a sound investment, like you say, just for that fact that I can, if I had to, I could send someone to my bag and go, in that top left corner lives this lens, pull that lens out, and so everything, everything is secured safely and has its home in my bag, rather than there's just one big pocket that's got 4 things chucked in it because there's no room for it to live elsewhere.
Yeah, it's the small workflows, isn't it?
Yeah,
we talk about workflows a lot and like customer workflows and whatever, but your bag and the way you lay that out is a workflow.
It is in itself.
You want to know what you need at what times. And you generally you have that muscle memory of, I'm going to pick that up and get that camera from that part.
Especially as well in a wedding when it's the evening and you're kind of, I might switch from, say, like my 85 to my wide lens for the dance floor. I'm normally doing that in the corner of a reception room, which is dark because it's the evening or there's dancing going on or whatever. I need to do that stuff almost without having to turn the torch on my phone to peer into my bag, or I've got the camera balanced in my hand with no lens on it, and I don't want that. That's a delicate thing. So kind of you need to make sure these things move quickly, and that does that really well.
Exactly.
And I feel like moving from the camera bag into our next thing to talk about your charging wall or the charging wall.
Yeah.
When I was speaking about that kind of battery thing is really, really handy. So to come home at the end of the day, open the bag and you have your like bazillion batteries that you've used and just plug them into this kind of matrix that you've built.
Yeah. So we basically got these pegboards on the wall, and like sort of garage shelving sort of thing. And we've created a charging station. And I found it off someone on YouTube, to be honest, and I've sort of created a hybrid that works for me. But essentially, I've bought extra chargers now because I take a charger to a wedding, and I don't really want to keep taking it off the wall. So we've bought extra chargers. We've like command stripped them to the pegboard. We've got little wire management systems going on, and it looks so good. Like it just looks the part. And because of that, and because everything's organised, it feels really good to use. So we've got like Sony batteries, we've got the Fuji X100 battery. We don't use them for weddings, but that's on there as well. We've got AAAs, we've got loads of USB-C, like things that charge via USB-C, like different sound equipment. We've got AA. There's just so many different batteries we have to charge. And so having that all on the wall, like the day before a wedding, I'll literally take everything out the bag, chuck it onto the wall, and then like it's done. And then
repeat that process. Before you go to the wedding, you open the bag, and then take everything off the wall.
Yeah,
and into where it is.
But exactly.
And I think it builds that system, doesn't it? Rather than you come home from a wedding at 11 o'clock at night and you go, oh, I've got another wedding tomorrow. Oh no, where did I put the charger for that?
Yeah.
And you're hunting for like a million cables in a drawer.
Yeah.
Or you've go, oh no, I might have left that somewhere else, or I haven't got that. And then you're panicking. Like, have I got enough batteries to get me to the next wedding? Where just to kind of throw everything at the wall and then chuck it all back in your bag the next day.
And you can see it as well. It's nothing like everyone's had the drawer of doom where you open it and it's just like, why?
I've still got one.
And you just start plugging stuff in and hoping for the best. Yeah.
I saw probably a similar video which inspired you to make it is from a guy who used to shoot a lot of destination weddings.
Yeah.
And he basically made one in those like silver kind of like cases that you get for camera equipment.
Yeah.
So made one of those. And so there was like a 6-way extension plug kind of in the base of it. All the chargers plugged in, like a board on top with them on.
Yes.
So then the idea was that he could leave this in the boot of his car during a wedding day. And then when he checked into his hotel in the evening, you literally bring it out, you plug the one plug from the extendy out the bottom of the case into the wall, open the case, and then everything. So again, all the chargers lived in the same place. You didn't have to worry about, even if you got to a hotel where there was one plug socket, there was this multi-way thing was there still enough that all of his kit and his phone maybe could all be charged out of this one kind of small box.
So that's just like peace of mind. And it was also satisfaction, like the satisfaction I get every time I put my stuff on charge now. And like before it was, I've got a wedding tomorrow. I've got to whack my stuff on charge. I've got to like find all my chargers and put them in different places and plug them in and whatever. I feel like again, it just speeds things up. And to get extra bougie of it this morning, I got Wi-Fi plug adapter things. So now I've got it, so I can just go, Alexa, turn on the charging station, and everything will just light up.
That's like next level. That is so good. So that's when you get into bed and you're trying to sleep and you have that doubt of, did I put it on charge? You can just shout to your office from bed.
Yeah, turn on the charger station and it just light up and start charging it, whatever's in there. It's just...
That's amazing. So now, if you even do that, can you remote do it from your phone as well then?
Yeah.
So if you were at a wedding and you think, I don't know if I've got enough, you could almost have some spare stuff on the wall and you could set it to charge before you even came home.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
That's insane. We're making magic on this podcast. If anyone can see me on camera, I feel like my mind's just been a little bit blown by that. That's incredible.
It's just one of those things. It's like it's such a luxury, but like as I thought of it, I saw the Wi-Fi plugs are on sale yesterday, and I've been thinking about getting them for ages for like Christmas lights and stuff.
Yeah.
But the adapter for all of this charging station is like just out of reach. So because I'm trying to save energy and stuff, every time I'm turning them on, I'm like reaching over, switching on the plug. And then this morning I plugged it in, set it all up, and I was just like, Alexa, turn on the charging station. And you see all these lights come on. And I was like, yes. The power.
But I think as well, it's just even like, if it's in your office, it's that it needs to be functional, but also to have something, say, well, you haven't got to keep pulling out a cupboard to plug something in. Or I find that, before I kind of tidied my stuff up, that my chargers, the only plug free in my office to get in that to was near the door. Yeah. So if you come in at night and you're roller casing, or you stand on your flash charger, you're like, I'm done. That's it. Because you can't charge it now. I don't have a flash. Yeah. Where to have something kind of, say, tidy and on the wall, it doesn't take up that much space, but it's really concise and charges everything that you need. It makes there a lot less room for error, I think, which is probably the crux of most of the things that we're talking about today. They kind of reduce that error and make your life easier to run your business.
Yeah. But equally, having those sort of organisation things is good on a wedding day as well. So I would probably in the future have a little backup kit of things that I might need at a wedding that just never comes out of the boot.
Yeah.
Like I've been building it slowly from like sort of health things. Like I've started adding like plasters and paracetamol, and like I'm going to get a crochet hook and like a little a hanger for a dress and things. I'm going to start building like a little kit that just stays in the. And then things like chargers and things that are extra as well might be quite good, or like some spare AA batteries or something like that. I feel like, again, this is about stuff we've already bought, but I feel like that's something that I'm working up to. So that you have like a little backup.
Is it? You always get a time at a wedding, say, where someone needs a plaster, or needs some scissors, or say a crochet hook for buttons. Or the one that always sticks in mind for me is I have a big clear umbrella, a big clear umbrella in my boot, which has been an absolute lifesaver for me. If you do get a wet wedding, to know that if you are somewhere where there's somewhere that hasn't got that facility, you can still say to your couple, look, I can offer you this to keep you dry, to get out to where we need to do photos, or even to keep me and my kit dry while I'm doing whatever. To have that kind of umbrella, which wouldn't look terrible if it was in a photo because it's clear and looks fancy, rather than the local venue, the hotel one with their logo on it, and which is always like dark blue or something, and never matches the kind of the dress. So that lives there. But so to have like a white golf one,
which is quite good as well. So we bought it's a big white golf umbrella, and we used it for a rain shot. Incredible, like because you can light it up because it's white. You can sort of light it up, and it sort of shines down on the glow shines down on them. It's lovely. We left it at the second wedding we did, and we can't find it again.
I say that, but having something the size of those like golfing umbrellas as well, to get a couple underneath them rather than huge. Just kind of a small U under it, or trying to balance it while you're taking a photo and stuff, to have those is really, really handy.
But like you said, like having that with you, I think like the couple were really. That's the sort of stuff that sort of impresses the couple a little bit, because you're like, oh, I've bought this, and like, oh, you've got an umbrella.
Yeah, it's above and beyond stuff, isn't it? They never expect you to have it, but are so grateful that you do. Yeah, because it helps you as well. That if you're at a wet wedding, it's a lot. We need to get out to this little place down the bottom of the kind of the garden. They go, I'm not walking. And you go, well, I've got a massive umbrella and keep you all safe. I'll hold your dress. You can walk down. You get your shot that you need. They still get that experience.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
and they can attribute that you've helped them.
Yeah. And without that, you haven't just gone, it's raining.
Write it off. Yeah,
write it off. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's really good. But I think I've also made a note on here about free things. Well, there are some things that probably all of us have and don't cost any money at all, which I find that I probably use the most. Both of us are iPhone users, and I'm sure that Google and Android have their equivalents. But the Notes app is absolutely invaluable for us. Like, we run our podcast pretty much from the Notes app. We have a shared folder, and so when we decided on the topics that we're going to do, or we've got the episode layout, we can both put our notes in there, and it updates in real time. And I did the same for all of my weddings. Obviously, I use Studio Ninja for all of my kind of admin stuff. I have a final questionnaire in there, which gives me everything I need. And then the day or a couple of days before a wedding, I can just drag all of the information from that into a note.
Yep.
And then that note then syncs to my phone. So my group list is always on my phone, whether I have no signal at a wedding and can't get onto the Studio Ninja app. I have all the postcodes for where I need to be. So everything that I need for that wedding, the phone numbers for the bride and groom, all lives in that note. And then at the end of that night, I can just delete that note and do the same again for my next wedding.
Yeah, shared notes are perfect for that. And if you've got a second shooter for sharing things as well with them. And just on the Android alternative, so we used to use Google Keep, or I still use Google Keep for every now and then for notes. But I had a sort of phase before wedding season started this year of trying to figure out how to manage like just everything personal and work related, and try and be more organized in life and in my brain and things. There's this thing called like the second brain, which was created by this author. I cannot remember his name.
Yes, I know the book. Yes, yes. Who does it?
Building a Second Brain.
I'm going to Google it.
I can't remember the guy's name. Yeah, you Google it. But yeah, I've been trying to work on that, and one of the things of trying to figure that out was finding a good notes app. And Google Keep is super simple, so it's basically you just create a note. If you found
He's called Tiago Forte.
Yes, that's him.
There you go. What a name!
Follow him on YouTube. Yeah,
I thought that's a name that I shouldn't have forgotten.
Tiago Forte.
Like I wish that like my name was as cool as that.
Name, isn't
Do
it?
you know what I mean? Like how much cool that called Tiago Photography. That'd be so much better than Weddings by Tom, wouldn't it? Like,
just Tom. So one of the things is trying to organize your notes in a way that you can easily find them. And Google Keep is just like just a stack of notes, right? So I've always used that, but with Apple, moving over to Apple Notes now, finding I'm storing things in folders more and making it more accessible. I'm sharing things more, like you say, and I think it's really important to have a workflow of notes so that things just don't get lost.
Yeah,
because they are important. And another part of that building a second brain was, and it's not free or there's a paid version of it, but there's a app that I use called Todoist now.
Sounds cool anyway.
It's a cool name, and it's really it's enhanced my like life and my workflows and everything a bit more. So essentially it is a to-do app. Like that's the boring description of it. But within this app you can set, so you have different projects like down one side of it, and within those projects you can set different sort of categories of to-dos within those projects, and within the categories you can set to-dos, and within those to-dos you can set subtasks sort of thing.
Yeah.
So an example of how I use this is for each wedding I now have a workflow of transfer the footage, cull the footage, get screenshots for social media, make the highlights, that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And instead of like to take the guesswork out, and with the long film, I sort of split it into 4 subtasks, so quarter of the long film, the second quarter. To take the guesswork out, I've created a project which is like a template project with all of that stuff in it. And every time I get a new wedding, I'll copy those tasks over into a new project and name it after the couple. So all of those tasks I've got to do for that one wedding are all in one place. And then on every Sunday evening-ish, I'll then go through and drag those tasks into my week. And then I can separate them out into the week.
So you're managing that into your calendar then as well. So you can almost build your week and you manage your time more effectively that
around
way.
The exact tasks I've got to do. And you can set target dates for them, which is really good. And there's also, I can't remember, it's called language based or something. So I can press, I've got a little widget on the phone. I can press plus and then put #weddings, and that'll put it in the weddings category, and then put do this by tomorrow, and it will link it to tomorrow.
And wow,
like,
okay. That's brilliant.
You don't have to like set a date or anything. You can literally type tomorrow and it will automatically do that.
Yeah, I know there's lots of apps kind of like this. I know a lot of people that use Trello as well, like kind of boards for finding things, but I don't think
Trello was an option,
that sounds as quite as complex or have as many features as Todoist. I think that's something that I'll definitely look into. At the moment, I know...
it's obviously not exciting, and it's fun. I think I could pay £5 a month for it, but to wake up and know exactly what I'm doing that day, and I know it's quite obvious and there's other ways of doing it, just whack it in a notes app or whatever, but to know exactly what I'm doing that day, to tick it off, and then be like, especially splitting bigger tasks into smaller tasks, which I think is what people struggle with when it comes to motivation. It's just, it's been a game changer for me.
But I think as well, it harks back to a conversation that we had over lunch, is that if you work in a job or you work for somebody, you have a boss which tells you, I'll go and do this, go and do that, or you know your task because they're given to you from somebody above who tells you what to do.
Yeah.
But ultimately, when most of us are one-man businesses, or we are that person that needs to tell ourselves what to do, we're also easy to make our own excuses and not do them. So to have almost, to kind of put that hat on of being, I'm the person that gives out the tasks and giving out those tasks, when you wake up in the morning and go, I've got loads to do today, what do I start with?
That can really mess with your brain.
It really, really helps that and makes you probably imagine a lot more productive. I know that myself, that from moving just from a paper to-do list, which I used to have, like a to-do list note I had on my desk and write things down as I remembered, even just moving to my notes, because like we spoke in our inspiration episode, which was the last episode that we did, all of your best ideas, or you remember these things when you're not in that moment.
Yeah.
And I'd find I'd be sat watching telly downstairs in the evening and go, need to do that tomorrow. And I'd have to get off the sofa and run upstairs and write it on my to-do list.
Yeah.
Where now I'm just having it in the notes app on my phone.
You can quickly write it down.
I can do that if I remember it in the middle of the night, or if I'm out walking my dog, or I'm on the set, I can just add it to the list. And I start to probably need to use something like Todoist, but use a notes app, just so I've kind of got a general task which need to be got to at some point, then an urgent task to-do list, and it all kind of filters down through that app.
And that's how it started for me with like OneNote, and then I moved to Apple Notes, and then Todoist just made that all like a bit more fluid.
But I think just the fact of having it kind of app-based, because most of us carry our phones all the time, that you can access that from anywhere. And obviously for me with the Apple Notes app, I can do that on my phone, and it updates the to-do list on my laptop.
Yes.
So I can access that from any device that I kind of use. That is really, really helpful.
Yeah. Like you say, making it fluid between devices is also quite important as well.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, having that organized brain definitely helps. And again, this is maybe a topic that will come up in another episode, but I feel like if you're waking up in the morning for an editing day and you don't know what you're editing that day, that's your first mistake, because you should already have the plan set. Otherwise, you're going to be procrastinating and doing other things. And, you know, someone messaged me the other day and said like, oh, just procrastinating today. I'm meant to be editing a long film. And my head went straight to like, how can you not do that? You can maybe go, okay, I'll do a quarter of the long film. Then I'll do one of these other tasks to try and like freshen the brain up.
I think we all work differently, and saying knowing how you are as a person, that if you can't dedicate or haven't got the concentration to dedicate all day to one task, is break it down into chunks and go, do you know what, for the morning I am going to work on this, but when I come back after lunch I can shelve that because I'm going to work on it tomorrow morning again. So I'm still going to meet deadline, but just so I'm not staring at the same people's faces of the same job over again, I can do that. Like I know a lot of people that do their emails either first thing in the morning or late at night, so that they can kind of clear their inbox, and most of those people don't reply at that time. So that, because if you start your email at 10 o'clock and everyone's at their desk, as soon as you ping, you're in your fourth or fifth email, the first two people have already replied, and then you stay in kind of a loop of keep going. So I know that kind of works.
Designating time to do that sort of stuff.
And there's definitely a whole episode in kind of those kind of personal workflows and just time management in general. So we won't go on to that too much because we're talking about things. And I think probably the last point that we've got, although that they're two different pieces of software, is both of us recently have changed how we deliver our work back to our couples.
Yeah, exactly. And this is one of the things we were talking about in the last episode, is like how should your content be consumed, right? So we started at the very beginning with DVDs, and then we moved to Blu-rays, and obviously like that's a traditional way of consuming like a video, right? Then we moved to USBs, and USBs, I found people just losing them, like they clearly weren't watching them. Either they'd copied it off and then the USB would just be lost or whatever. And now we're using a new thing called VidFlow. I say it's a new thing, it's probably been around quite a while, but it's new to us. And essentially, where we were delivering on YouTube before, this VidFlow allows them to go onto it, to share it, to download it straight from VidFlow. They can also connect it up to their smart TV, so they can. It's instantly compatible with most smart TVs and things that they would want to play it back on. It plays back on pretty much any device because you can just open it from a web browser, and it's just a whole experience. Like when you open it up, it looks like a DVD menu. You've got your like main picture, and then you've got like 4 different chapters, like main film, trailer, ceremony, speeches, and you can like pick what you want from there, and you can share that whole experience. And then it also, the link lasts 10 years. So if they've...
Oh, wow. That's
whereas
really
a physical product is probably going to be lost after 5-6 years, or in a move or something, this will always be on the same link in that same email. So that's been like the main selling point for us, is 10 years down the line when you've lost contact with us and whatever, that will still be there, sort of thing.
Yeah, the fact that it lives online as well, it's not, all the other things that you've described have been tech related. Like, I don't own a DVD player now. I don't think I ever owned a Blu-ray player. So, or a USB. I don't think lots of people that only have tablets now or just phones would have no way to plug in that device. And, I went on a similar journey from delivering on DVD to USB, and then obviously to online gallery with USB. And I've just changed now. I used to use Shootproof, and I've used those since about 2017. And then just this year I've moved over to PickTime. Just to kind of streamline what I do and make that, like we say, curate that experience better. The automation for selling prints on the other end is better, which ultimately I want, because I want to sell more prints to my couples, but not have to then go through all of that kind of manual selling process and delivery and stuff, which PickTime manages really, really well. And I think the main thing for me moving was the integrated slideshows. I always want to deliver a slideshow to my couple before I drop their gallery, because I think that's a really nice way of presenting those photos back rather than just dropping, a mass of 700 or 800 stills to them and go click through them.
Yeah.
You could to add some music, kind of put some stuff in chronological order for them to view, almost like a greatest hits kind of, 50 to 100 images.
Yeah, exactly. Like we do a highlights film.
Exactly that. It's kind of my version of a highlights film that
Yeah.
you can kind of show back. But before, with Shootproof, because they didn't support that, I had to then make that myself in like a movie making app like Resolve or whatever, and then upload that to a hosting site, whether that was YouTube or have it in like a cloud storage space and just send them a link.
Which is a huge process.
It's a huge process, but also I couldn't curate that experience. I was paying for something like Shootproof where I could make a lovely branded gallery for their images to see it.
Yeah.
But I had to send them somewhere else first for the slideshow, where now that they can have the same link and that slideshow appears, again, like you said, with the branded top and all the same fonts and the rest of it, and then to have kind of gallery coming soon, and 2 days later, they go, oh, your gallery is now live.
Yeah.
They can click back into that same space, which is familiar because they've watched the slideshow there.
Yeah.
The slideshow sits at the top and all the stills underneath.
Yeah.
Makes it just, it makes me look good from
exactly.
the software that I'm using. And if you're paying for something in your business, you need to make sure that you're using the best that you can or using the most out of it. Like Shootproof was great, don't get me wrong, it served me well for a long time and I've delivered hundreds of galleries through it. But there was also a lot of stuff built into Shootproof, like they offered contracts and they offered questionnaires, but I don't need that because I use Studio Ninja for that. So there was no point in paying for bits of them that I didn't need when the bits that I did need weren't there.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's all about the client experience at that point, and I feel like you feel better sending them that.
Yes.
Because you're like, look at this, it's going to be, this is your experience sort of thing.
And if you've worked really hard on making them, a really cool set of photos or a really sick film, you want to make the bells and whistles or the presentation around it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Lovely.
Yeah.
It's like if you were like a really fancy chocolatier, you wouldn't just sling them in a plastic bag and go, there you are. Like they come in a fancy box, don't they?
Exactly,
with like like a luxury inlay and kind of like gold writing. And you need to do that same.
That's
you need
your
to gift
version
wrap.
of that. Gift
though
wrap.
that we're, maybe like, the DVD's not coming anymore, so you don't get a chance to put it in the fancy box with the cover anymore.
Yeah.
You're literally sending them an email, but you need to make sure that email delivery is branded and the experience they have is just as luxury and makes them feel just as special as that receiving that DVD in the post did.
Yeah, exactly. And we've been getting some really good responses from it. Our couples who had USB booked, we've been saying to them, look, you can either have USB or you can have this new shiny thing.
Yeah.
And generally it's gone down really well because previously with the people with USB, they would get all their videos delivered to them first on YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
And because it's on YouTube, like they've got, copy and paste the YouTube link and that doesn't look as good, right?
Yeah.
If they're copy and pasting a link, which is going to have their family open that, it's got a massive picture of them on it and,
and for them as a couple as well, they feel fancy sharing it with people.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, look how important we look. We have like our own web space. Yeah. They kind of, it uplifts what you do and makes it even seem even more special and makes them want to share it, which then is going to get you seen more.
It's such an experience. And I feel like because people get that download link straight, so we've always been a bit funny about download links, I'll be honest. So we'll deliver the trailer and we'll be like, no, you can have it once you get the USB. That's when you get your file sort of thing. But having sort of been a bit more lenient around it now, clients have started downloading their trailer pretty much as soon as they get it, posting it and tagging us in it. And we're like, actually, that's actually worked out.
Because you've streamlined that process for them now. They haven't got to go into YouTube and then copy it out.
Yeah,
and send
or wait
it.
for their USB. By then, they're already like tired of their wedding.
Yeah.
It's like, they don't really want to share it anymore sort of thing. But yeah, it's made a big difference to the experience and just, customer satisfaction. It makes us feel good as well. So
yeah, and again, and to have, for me, I know to have my pick time there as well, is that also serves as like a secondary online backup. Even though my couple only get for a certain amount of time, if all of my weddings now live in that, if the worst was to happen and my multiple hard drive was to fail, or there was something where I lost that data, at very worst, I know that all of the galleries which I've delivered through my online platform live, at least have their edited set of JPEGs that I delivered in that platform as long as I keep them there, so that they live there and I have them. So it's kind of, it almost is, you're getting that really nice presentation, but also the peace of mind of a backup with it as well.
That's
and
a
for
good
like
point.
you said, the amount of weddings that you could film in 10 years.
Yeah.
to all live in there, a rolling period, there could be hundreds of films in there.
Yeah, and that could be a backup if I ever needed to download the files again myself, sort of thing. Yeah, I never thought about it like that, to be honest. But
if a couple came back for you 8 years later, and you had to try and find that hard drive or that film in your archive system and then present it in a way to get it back to them, it'd be far easier to find their vid flow and go, oh, here's the link.
Yeah, no, I've recently had that, to be fair. A couple come back to me from 2016.
Wow.
And was like, we've lost the DVD. Can you send over the file? I sent over the files. It's like, those files don't work on our thing anymore. So I've then had to like completely like, re-export in different formats and stuff. If I put it on here, they can download it, because I think they can download it in 2 different formats as well. So if one doesn't work, they can.
So it's much more feature-proofed
automated
as well,
and everything. Yeah,
that's it. It's a step that again, like we were saying earlier, even if that saves you quarter of an hour in your business now for that future problem. If a bunch of couples come back to you and you've eliminated that problem, you've saved yourself potentially hours in your week.
Yeah,
and it's an absolute no-brainer.
But I think in the future we are gonna talk about that whole customer experience, client experience definitely. From start to finish. We've got that on our list, so if that's something you want to hear, let us know. And that's pretty much it in terms of the tech and the things we've. I
think so. Yeah, I think we've covered quite a broad one, and I think sometimes some of the things that we talk about, particularly when we're relating to an actual wedding day, the similarities are there. But I feel even just talking about monitors or the way that we store stuff or present stuff, that starts to show the different sides to photo and video quite easily. And you definitely covered some things, and I was like, I don't even have to consider that because I'm not a videographer. True, and maybe the same on your side. You don't have to worry about people ordering prints because you print a video. So. But
naturally, when you talk to each other like this, you go straight onto cameras because that's the first thing you sort of think about. But like often the things like these that like sort of behind the scenes make a bigger difference than maybe a camera would.
I think maybe you've inspired me to build. I have all my chargers in one place now, but I kind of feel that I need to go to the DIY store and buy some pegboards now and a Wi-Fi thing, just so I can feel the power of Alexa charge my batteries. Like I feel like I need that like in my life now, just to kind of feel important.
You're inspired.
I am, so I think we should leave it there so I can get down to the shop before it closes. I think that's where we need to be. So yeah, hopefully
you've enjoyed this, taken something away from it. On the platforms that we can, we'll leave links to the things we've spoken about as well, just so that you can easily access them. We tried not to be very brand specific, but I also don't want you to just be listening to this and then be like, I can't find any of this stuff. What's the point? So
we're not at the affiliate stage yet. Don't worry, there won't be loads of links below that we're going to make money off of when you go and buy all of these things in their droves. Yet.
I do have an Amazon affiliate account.
But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed it. So share it if you have enjoyed it. If there's something in there which you really thought was useful, let us know. We've saved you some time. Share, comment, all the rest of it, and we'll catch you next time.
We'll see you in the next one.
Yeah.
Sick.
That's 2 today. I think we've both done pretty well.
Smashed it.
I think so. We have. I think we've finally nailed it today. Like we're finally getting there with this podcast game.
We're on it.
I feel like we're getting there.